Hey everybody, understanding the modes is a lot simpler than you think. Now first, as guitar players, most of the time we're only using 4 of the modes, okay? That makes it even simpler. And out of those 4, 2 of the modes are identical in a fashion. Now, in this video, we're going to be in the key of C. And these 2 modes, if I take my hand right here, in this position, they're identical, and it's just C major and A minor, okay? C Ionian is C major, and A Aeolian is A minor. So thinking of it that way, we can almost say that there are only 3 modes that we use most of the time, because these 2 modes can be blended into, perhaps we could say, a combo mode. Let me show you what these 2 have in common. C major is Ionian. And A minor is Aeolian, and I'm just starting on a lower note. I'm starting on the A. It's exactly the same position, exactly the same notes. It just starts at a different scale degree. So now let's play the other 2 modes, starting with G mixolydian and D Dorian. Now both of these modes are still in the key of C major. It's the exact same notes you find in C major. We're just starting at a different point. And whether it's 3 or 4, that's it. You want to call it 4, it's these 4 modes. If you want to call it 3, it's these 3 modes. Now, one very important thing that I'd like you to remember is that the note name in front of the mode name is dictated by the key that we are in. And for this lesson, we are in the key of C. So when I say G mixolydian and I play a G note, I'm playing the 5th note in the C major scale, and it's always G mixolydian. Now, this is just a template that moves. If we were in D major, I would be playing in A mixolydian. If we were in E major, I would be playing in B mixolydian. Now, we'll jump right into a track where I'll show you the practical way to use these as you're soloing. So this starts with a G mixolydian. Okay, now D Dorian. Okay, now C Ionian or C major. Okay, now A minor or A Aeolian. Okay, let's just talk about this for a second. The only note outside of C major, the C major scale, that I played was during the A minor, this flat 5 blues thing. Other than that, every single note I played in G mixolydian, D Dorian, C Ionian, and A Aeolian was in C major. Every note was in the C scale. Now, these modes, I've said this before, I don't think of them when I'm playing. I kind of learned them afterwards. I see the shapes of the modes. I understand how they work. So that's something you might consider is once you learn these modes, you don't have to keep saying Ionian, Aeolian, mixolydian, Dorian. You can just see the shapes and let go of the names if you want. Hasn't stopped me. Now, one thing I really want to pound is that every single note I'm playing is in the key of C major. And the reason I say there are only 3 modes that matter, even though I'm talking about 4 of them, is that the C Ionian and A Aeolian, if you meld them together, they're exactly the same. And exactly the same in the sense that it's the same position in the same key. You're just starting on a different note. So it's very easy to kind of just turn them into one thing. And that makes it simpler. It's not that I'm trying to take a shortcut or anything, but anything you can do to make it seem simpler and look simpler, I think is a benefit. So there's 3 modes: G mixolydian, D Dorian, and this combo mode that's A minor and C major. And it's even easier for me to say A minor and C major than say A Aeolian and C Ionian. It just gets easier. And that's what we want, right? G mixolydian. Okay, moving on to D Dorian. I like the 10th fret as a home bass. Flat 5, just threw it in there. Landing on a C, now we're in C. We can do pentatonic. Or 7 note. Now A minor can be pentatonic also. Or 7 note. Landing back on G. So let's talk about what I mean with regards to a 7-note scale versus a 5-note scale. The pentatonic scale, the 5-note scale, is often the best choice in genres like the blues or rock. It just is. Sometimes the simplest choice is the best choice. So if we're in C, C major, it's often better to play pentatonic than use the 7-note scale. It's just an aesthetic choice. Same with D Dorian. You can do a 7-note scale. That's all I've been doing. Or you can play simple D minor pentatonic. And in fact, it's great to bounce back and forth between these 2 modes because it keeps things fresh. Now, when I did C up here with a 7-note scale, the only danger there for me is I end up sounding a little too verbose, and there's a little too many notes, and maybe the feeling and the heart of playing guitar gets lost in this, desire to actually show how you can just fly around on the guitar. So I'm always paying attention to that. And towards that end, let me do one more performance right now where I try not to jump into this 7-note scale excursion that might not be the most powerful thing for the listener. Let me try and simplify and use the 7-note scale, use the 5-note scale, but not get caught up in kind of getting carried away by the scales. Let's try it. Here we go. So far, so good. Okay, D minor. Trying to have the phrases have meaning. And you are at C. 7 notes, but with feeling. Okay, now A minor, pentatonic. Seven notes. Just a flash of it, maybe that's okay. So now I'm going to move on to one more very important thing, and then I'll start looking at the chat and we'll do some questions and answers. So when I play in G mixolydian, my favorite place to start is down here. Of course, I could see the G7 chord here, or here, or here. And those are all places to start, home bases for me to improvise from. And then when I go to D minor Dorian, it's up here. But of course, I can play these anywhere. And then when I go to C and A minor, I'm kind of all over the neck. It's just, I kind of am free. Every position, my favorite position, even though I've talked about how they're really good to visualize here from fret 5 to fret 8. And both of those modes share exactly the same scale position, fingering, everything. So we'll jump into that. I want to remind you guys, though, this jam track is available to download. You just click the link below and grab the 30 free lessons. It's going to be in that collection and real easy to find. So if you want this jam track to play over, I encourage you to click the link below and pick up the 30 free guitar lessons, which includes this music that you are hearing. So what I want to talk about now is staying in one position. It's a little more of a challenge, particularly on the G mixolydian. So if I stay right here, if I say that this is a good anchor point for the C major and the A minor, the C Ionian and the A Aeolian. See, I'm already giving up those names, which I think is a benefit. So a G mixolydian in this position is the only one that's a little challenging. D minor Dorian's pretty easy here, and of course C and A minor are easy here. So I'm going to dive in and we'll talk and I'll show you how to stay in one place. Because I've been choosing my favorite place to start G mixolydian, which is down here, my favorite place to start D Dorian, which is here, and then my favorite place to do C and A are everywhere. But let me show you what it's like to stay in one position. G mixolydian. D Dorian in the same position. On to C Ionian. A minor. So now I'd love to talk about this guitar for one quick second. This is a 1963 ES335 that I bought from Norm right before the pandemic. And he gave me a good price because I had produced a song for him. And it's very devalued. It did not have the original pickups in it. If it had the PAFs in it, PAFs, PAFs. A lot of people like to call them PAFs. It would have been totally out of my league, but I was able to buy it because the pickups weren't original. And then I ended up putting some Monty's pickups in it. But it has the wide neck. If you get into the late 60s with these 335s, the neck gets really skinny at the nut, and my hands are like fat sausages, so I need the wide neck, you know. The newer Gibsons or like pre-64, pre-65 Gibsons. I can see all the modes because I learned the whole guitar neck, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, basically with a Nashville number scale sort of approach. My guitar teacher taught me the modes. I forgot the names. So you don't need to know the names. And my goal with this particular video is to show you that in most of the music we do, we're only using 4 modes, but it's really just 3 because in the key of C, which we're at, and somebody mentioned all they knew was C, A minor, F, and G, which is perfect because this jam track is basically just that. It's just kind of a little more tricky, you know. There's a couple more chord changes per square inch than just C, A minor, F, and G. But those are all the chords. Those are the only chords that exist on this jam track. So download the jam track and just know that it's basically C, A minor, F, and G. So 2 of the modes, and if we forget the names, 2 of the 4, and this allows me to call them 3 important modes because they're the same. It's C major and A minor. And if you go pentatonic right here, okay, you've just knocked off 2 of the main modes the guitar players use most of the time. And then for G mixolydian, if you just want to call it the G7 scale, and just see a G7 chord there, that works too. That way you can give up mixolydian. And then D Dorian, for D Dorian, all you really need to do is see the G chord that goes along with it. So we have D minor and G. So you could call this the D minor G scale. You could call this the G7 scale, and then you could call this C major and A minor. You're done with all the names, and you're playing music in the modes. And I was saying yesterday in my live stream for members only that if there's something in music that's a bullseye, okay, it's right in the center of the circle, you can enter that circle anywhere and end up in the same place. There's so many ways to actually define something from different angles and different directions. So you can be talking about a lot of different things and they all lead to the same thing. So it's a lot simpler than you think. And as I was saying, in pop music, in rock music, in country music, in R&B, we're just using these 3 or 4 modes 100% of the time. So yeah, and somebody also mentioned how I broke a rule and I played a flat third down here in the G. That's good too. Once you learn a rule, you can break it as long as you're aware you're breaking it. So if the rule is a major third, here in this G7 scale, G mixolydian, break the rule. Play a minor third. What's the best way to practice? And what's the best way to make sure that you practice all the time? And one of the things that I really, really believe in is that make sure there's a guitar nearby wherever you're at. And, you know, if it's okay for the marriage and the family, you could have one in the living room. If it's not, as long as it's in your office or where you play music, it should be out of its case and right next to you. And then I even take it a step further because I take my Strandberg guitar, which is a 4-pound guitar. It feels like I'm wearing nothing. And I put it on with a strap, and I'm actually working, doing business on my laptop, sending emails or talking on the phone, and I can noodle in between those actions. So any way that you can kind of trick yourself in having a guitar in your hands, that's my suggestion. If you have a super lightweight guitar, you can literally wear it while you do other stuff. If you're not able to do that, at least have it out of its case, or one of them out of its case, so it's sitting right there. And then I got another question today, which I think was really good, is what do you do when you first sit down to play the guitar? I mean, you could do exercises. I mean, you could play the G mixolydian scale. One of the things I do is I try and get faster, so I try and play fast, and I crash and burn. You see how imperfect that was? But it pushed me further to play faster. Almost got it. So push yourself to play fast, play scales. But the real answer I want to give you on this is the joy of music for me comes from playing along with the song. So if I was getting ready to play my guitar, put up your favorite Led Zeppelin song or your favorite anybody's song, you know, your favorite classic rock song or R&B song or country song, or put up something new and then try and figure out what they're doing for a second or two. But maybe that would be second. The first thing, I would play along with something that's really inspiring and fun for you, you know. Oh, that's greater. One of your favorite tracks, you know, and I'd start that way. And then if you want to do some exercises with a drum machine or a metronome, that works too. For me, playing over jam tracks is the best thing because it's endlessly. Let me talk about what I think about when I play over a jam track, which becomes practice. Okay, so I'm going. Turn on a little delay. I'm thinking, okay, that was a little too sophisticated. Maybe I want to play simpler and more emotionally. I want to dig in more. I want to make sure I punctuate. Okay, I'm going to add a little more gain. And now I'm going to try and play fast. Okay. Always make sure you have your last note in mind because that's your exit. That's how you bail out properly. No. So I played something fast, now I should play something slow. Bluesy. Okay, now I'm going to get a little bit jazzy. Okay, now I'm gonna work against that and play something simple and bluesy. I was sort of playing triplets against the fours. So my advice when you practice to a jam track, try something and think, what is the opposite of that? If I just played fast, I'm going to play slow. If I just played something very melodic, I'm going to try and play something, shall we say, ugly. You know, if my tone was too sweet, I'm going to step on a pedal and make it more distorted. You know, on and on and on. If I'm, you know, playing too many notes, I'm going to try and play too few notes. Another thing that's great to do, alter your pick velocity constantly so that when you're speaking the language of phrases and melodies, some notes are louder than others. And a really simple rule of thumb is you can make the first note really loud and then decrease intensity and make some of the notes after that quieter, and then make your last note loud. So that gives you a good punctuated musical sentences. But don't pick everything at the same intensity. You'll sound more like a pro, and you'll sound like a pro immediately if you're playing really light at times. And you adjust it up and down. Make sure that it's never a habit to do something one way only. Like if you're doing something only one way and you're just defaulted to that, that becomes a habit. You want to make it a choice. If I want to play too heavy, that's a choice that I can change in the very next phrase where I can play really light. Yeah. So what else? I think maybe I'll play a little bit more and talk about it. I want to let you guys know there's some pickups that I designed with Rob Timmons at Arcane, and he's got a few sets left, and I really think these are great pickups. They're very bell-like humbuckers. I'm kind of superstitious about what's in here, but in my Les Paul, I have the Arcanes that we designed, and if you want a pickup, a humbucking pickup that has a lot of clarity and almost sounds like a single coil, which is apparently what the 59 Les Pauls were famous for, is, you know, low output, very clear and bell sounding. I think you'll like these, and he's got a few sets left over. We sold most of them, but he told me the other day that there's a few sets left. So another thing to do is use the fingers. Tuck the pick, use the fingers, get the pick back. I knew we were going to D minor, so I went to a D note. Double stops are good to do too. Now we're in C major and A minor. This is the A minor section. I like to play the blues here. Landing on the G. I always try and remember what chord change is coming next. Just keep a little note in your brain. Like right now, we're moving to a D minor. So somebody just asked where to get this specific jam track. It is on a link right below this video, and it'll be there forever. This jam track is free. You just click the link, you get this jam track plus 30 free guitar lessons. Just get your email address and get you on the email list, and this jam track is free. So it's there for you. Yeah, I don't really use the shoulder of the pick. A lot of people do. That's a great technique, but I just use one part of the pick. I like using different picks at different times though too. These are a little bit big. I used to use smaller ones. These days I'm using these big Dunlops, and they're really comfortable. On to D minor. try and make a safe landing in the new key, which is C. Yeah, somebody just brought up, Bob, you just brought up that a simple loop pedal is what you use to start to learn to do solos and fills. One thing that I heard recently is that a loop pedal is great because it forces you to play in time. So you start your loop, whatever your chord changes are, and in order for it to work properly, you have to play in time, and you have to step on the thing at exactly the right time for it to stay true. That's a really good observation. So using a loop is really good for your timing and your rhythm. I always like to play to jam tracks, so my version of that is I put up a drum beat. Click tracks are good too, but I always put up a drum beat, and then I'm it's like I'm writing a song right away. The minute you put up a drum beat and you start playing, you got a riff going, The whole time I'm playing over this jam track, I'm seeing chord shapes. I'm seeing a G7 here, a G7 here, a G7 here, G7 here, there's a G here, and that's when I'm playing over G. When I go to the D minor, I'm seeing D minor here, D minor here, D minor here, D minor here. Everywhere it exists, I see those triads, and that's another great way to actually map the fretboard. Fretboard is another great way to map the fretboard and just know where you are all the time. See the chord shapes. And that's like I'm talking about. If there's so many ways into the bullseye, into the target, there's the modes, there's the chord shapes, there's the scales. There's just so many ways to actually get where you need to go. So guys, we're at about the end of our time. Thanks so much for showing up. I hope you enjoyed it. And the modes are not as hard as you think. And in this particular case, I am doing a jam track that, let me remind you, it's available. Just click the link below. You have this music. I'm doing a jam track here, what you're hearing, that's basically C, A minor, F, and G. And that's a very easy way to start to realize that these things are more basic than you think. So I'm playing in C, I'm playing in A minor, I'm playing over a G7 chord, and I'm playing a D minor to G scale. That's my way of using different terminology and not saying mixolydian, Ionian, Aeolian, and Dorian. So bye guys, have a great weekend. We will see you on the next one. I'll play us out.